Hello, I'm Gavin Horgan, Headmaster of Millfield School in Somerset, the largest co-educational boarding school in the UK. Welcome to the Millfield Way Podcast. Here, you'll hear from teachers, coaches and students from Millfield and Millfield Prep School. Millfield is traditionally different, and this is the Millfield Way.
Hello and welcome to this Millfield Way podcast in conversation with Reggie Keates. My name's Liz Webb, and for this episode I'm pleased to be joined by Millfield's Director of Hockey, Reggie Keates. So Reggie, welcome. You've worked for Millfield for 22 years, so a really long time in lots of different roles, so hopefully we'll be able to explore that a little bit. Can we start by you telling us about your career past and your previous roles in hockey?
Hi Liz, thanks so much for having me on. So within 25 years of coaching, I've done quite a bit, both junior and senior stuff. So in the junior hockey side of things, I've worked all along the England hockey pathway. So that's us doing High-Pack, Futures Cup, England assessments. So I've done that sort of full spectrum from a junior point of view, as recently as TA, Talent Academy stuff. And on the senior front, I've done National League coaching with Firebrands, Bath Bucks, and now I'm at Clifton Robertson's Hockey Club doing some senior hockey.
And did you play hockey yourself as a
Yes,
young
I did. Yes,
Reggie?
yeah, so obviously a multi-sporter growing up, and I did hockey, cricket, did a bit of rugby, tennis, so I did a full spectrum of it. But yeah, played provincial hockey back home in South Africa, and played National League when I first arrived.
And there always seems to be a link between hockey and cricket. Is that seems to come up quite a lot sometimes? Is it transferable skills?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely say that. And I think the hockey would help a cricketer in terms of their 360 game, perhaps the athleticism in the field. The cricket would offer skill sets that a hockey player would need as well. So I definitely think so.
And so how do you approach coaching young people? What's your kind of ethos to your coaching style?
I suppose my philosophy is to maximise a player's potential. I feel that we working in a development environment, Millfield, and regardless of whether they are developing to be an England hockey player or they've just started their journey, I think both have a lot of value. And I think it's a privilege for us to be able to impact on a young person's life. And so if I'm able to do that to a certain extent, I see that as a real privilege.
And so thinking back to when you first came to Millfield, what made you want to coach here particularly? And did you come in as a hockey coach or did you come in through a different route? Yeah,
so originally I started as a hockey and a cricket coach. That was my primary role. And over that time, things developed. I remember getting called into Peter Johnson's office quite earlier on without having to go into university, because I was in South Africa, I was then in Australia, then came over here as a young man, and he said, listen, we need to put you on a teaching degree. So I was really fortunate and really grateful to him for putting me through a teaching degree whilst working at school. So I did a geography degree. So I taught geography for 5 years whilst I've been here. I've had the pleasure of working in boarding environment. I've been an assistant house parent in a few of the houses, mostly in Orchard's house, where I was there for 7-8 years, which was great fun. And now I'm an assistant house parent in Mill House, which is a day house. And
in an environment like Millfield, do you feel it's important that staff get to see different parts of the school, so from the teaching aspect, from the boarding aspect, from the sports coaching aspect? Is it important that all of those kind of elements fit together?
Yes, I do. And people here at Millfield, they're not just a hockey player, they're very much a student athlete. And so academics are very much at the forefront. And being able to see them in the classroom and on the sports field and in-house, obviously you see a different side of that individual, that young person, and I think that's really important to get a broader perspective on that pupil.
And I suppose it helps you get to know them, as you've said, in a different light, understand different aspects of their life. There may be other things going on which then reflects perhaps on the sports field, but you then have that kind of holistic view of them as a person.
Yeah, 100%. As you just highlighted there, it's that holistic approach and being able to see them from from all aspects of school life.
And so when you came here as a hockey coach, what was it that drew you to the school in the first place?
I think the uniqueness of it. I think it being a fantastic sporting environment where they develop young players or young people. That's probably the first thing that sort of drew me to it. But then when I started, I just think it is just the most unique environment across school environments that I've come across in all aspects, as we said. Whether it's in the classroom, in the house, I just think it's a wonderful place to be.
And I imagine you get to visit lots of schools as part of fixtures throughout the year, so you get to see what's going on elsewhere. Okay, let's talk about the hockey programme itself. Can you kind of explain what the programme looks like, who's it for, different levels of ability?
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's three strands, and hockey fundamentally is for all ages, for all abilities, boys, girls. So whether you are a beginner and you've just started or you want to play socially, there's a programme for you. And that may be 2-3 times a week training, that external fixtures, internal leagues, just having a bit of fun with your friends. And then that goes right through to, I suppose, the high-performing cohort of players that we have. And that would be the integration with club hockey. It would be training 4 or 5 times a week. It would be going and exposing themselves to the athletic development side of things, sports psychology, nutrition, and you've got that side of the spectrum as well.
Okay, and roughly how many students participate in hockey here?
So within Millfield, we sort of a high participation sport, where we have about 350 plus kids that play hockey in any given term. So we obviously go across the autumn and spring term. But saying that, the summer term, we also offer a program for those that are still within the England pathway, doing the talent academy and within the England programs. And
I assume that's to keep their training up and keep all their skills.
Yes, because the summer term is probably a key part in that part of the development. So there'll be selections coming up in July and August. Those that are involved in the NGB, so we've got a few players playing for England, Wales, Scotland, and they've got test matches coming up this summer. So them to be able to get out and have some contact time on the Astro is vitally important.
Fantastic. And so who works alongside you in the hockey department?
So we have 5 specialist coaches that run the program, but we're really grateful that we've got 20 plus academic staff that help support us in running the program. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we've got an athletic development team. So those that get access to the gym, we've got those sports coaches that are able to do that. We've been very fortunate to have a sports psychologist with us last season that followed some of the girls' hockey groups and ably supported them. And obviously nutrition is vitally important for young people, and that's again something that we probably hold quite dear.
How do we work with external hockey clubs to ensure that players that are pushing themselves on are developing?
So the landscape of England hockey's actually changed over the time I've been here. The club hockey is a vitally important aspect of a young player's hockey diet, and so we work really hard with the local clubs to integrate it into our program, to the extent where we have players that go off and play National League hockey on a Saturday and get released. And they may not play a school fixture on a Saturday, but go off to play in a National League game, because that's the external stretch that they need. And that's something that would go across both the boys and the girls through that autumn and spring term.
Okay, fantastic. And so what's a typical week look like for a hockey player? How often would they be training? When would they be playing fixtures? When would they be going off-site for training with a club? What does it look like?
So again, it depends what you want to get out of the sport. If you're a keen and ambitious hockey player, as I said, you'd probably be training 4 and 5 times a week. you'd be looking at about 7.5 to 8 hours a week of internal hockey. You would access the gym for about 2.5 hours as well. Outside of Millfield, they would be going to train twice a week with the National League club if they're at that sort of the top end, and then playing fixtures on the weekend. That's probably what they would be doing. Whether that's for school or whether that's for club, that's their weekly diet.
So obviously we're a large boarding school, and so lots of our students there, they don't have parents or family anywhere near us. Do we help facilitate those students getting to their external hockey club for training and fixtures?
Yes, we do. There'll be sort of minibus shuttles that would be throughout the week that would be able to take players not only to club hockey but to the player pathway stuff, like the Talent Academy, for instance. And that helps sort of alleviate pressure on those boarding parents who go, how am I going to get my kid to various events? So, yes, we do.
Okay, fantastic. And are there some success stories from Millfield Hockey that you can talk about? One that springs to mind most recently, I suppose, is Stu Rushmere. He's been doing really well, but are there ones you can talk about?
Yes, I mean, it's an interesting question, actually, because to define what a success story is, so there are sort of recent OMs that have gone off to medical school who are really keen players here, that played in the first team, and I see that as much as a success story as those that go through sort of the hockey pathway.
Yeah.
But if you sort of look slightly further back, the history that Millfield Hockey has and the affiliation to, say, the Olympic Games is significant. We've had loads of former OMs that have gone to the Olympic Games, which you're really proud of. And with Stu, as you mentioned, Stu Rushmere, Toby Reynolds-Cottrell, they're currently in the GB training group now, training towards Paris for this summer's Olympics. And we wish them all the best for that, and I hope they stay fit and healthy. But then we've also got players that go off to American universities, for instance. So we had Kitty Chappell is one example. We've got, I think, 6-7 girls that are within that sort of American university program as we sit now. And Kitty is someone that played within the elite development program whilst she was here at Millfield. And she then actually went on to Harvard. And she's loving it. And she's playing for Harvard, and she's coming back and doing the odd EDP camp, which is great. But that's a success story as well.
Fantastic, yeah. So when people are thinking about joining Millfield, what is it that you would be looking for in a hockey player?
3 things. One of which is, do they have a desire to improve? The other one would be the positive impact they're able to make on their playing environment, whether that's training or whether that's in matches. And the third thing, which shouldn't be overlooked, is the positive impact a player can have on those around them in that playing environment. Those are the 3 aspects. And if they're doing those 3 things, they're on the right track.
And do we have many players coming here on scholarships for hockey?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we've got a number of those. But yet again, that doesn't set them apart from necessarily anyone else. But we certainly do have quite a few that are on sports scholarships that include hockey.
And how do you ensure that players take their academics just as seriously as their hockey? Because we are a school, we are about them getting their academic grades and moving on to the next stage of their education. How is that balanced if they've got quite a heavy training schedule?
Yeah, I guess that's the beauty of Millfield, and that's one of the things that's so impressive that I find even now after all these years, is that the sort of the communication between the academic staff, the house parent, and the coaches is there's the direct communication. So if things need to be dialed up and dialed down, we're all aligned, and it transcends across all 3 of those aspects, and I think that's one of the unique aspects of Millfield.
Fantastic. Can you give our listeners 3 takeaways from this podcast? So if you want them to remember 3 things only, or 3 main things, what would they be about the hockey programme?
Just 3. So I suppose Millfield Hockey, like other sports, it's a development environment of players. But more so, it's a development environment for young people. And the emphasis is around developing people through sport. That's certainly something that that's strong on my heart, and that's something that we'd like to insist on. The wraparound care that the individual has. So as we mentioned before, nutrition support, sports psychology, athletic development, that the wraparound care is around the individual, and it's a sort of bespoke program. So whatever they'd like to get out of the sport is something that they're able to do. And we work with an end in mind. So, what would young people like to do beyond Millfield? And so that transition piece of, so you'd like to go to an American university, or you'd like to be part of the EDP program, and then you work back from that and have those various checkpoints through their school career for them to be able to reach that ultimate goal of what that is beyond Millfield, because we just a small part in a person's life, and that's how we'd like to sort of impact them through that phase.
Fantastic. Thank you, Reggie. I'm sure that's given our listeners a real insight into hockey at Millfield. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Millfield Way podcast in conversation with Reggie Keates. Thank you and